Okay, this is part 2 of 8.3. Sorry about that. I had a coughing fit. So you can multiply these numbers just as the way we did A, B, and C. But if you're multiplying by a power of 10, which 100 is 10 to the second power, there's a shortcut. All you have to do is move your decimal. If you're multiplying by 100, you simply take the decimal and move it over 2 places to the right. Why is it 2 places? Because this number is actually 10 squared. Or you can think of it that there's 2 zeros. That's why you move it over to the right 2 places. Using that same logic, for this guy, we're going to move it over 3 places because 10 to the third power has 3 zeros. It's really 1,000. So one question is, well, where's the decimal right now? Well, if there's no decimal there, it's understood to be at the end. So it's right there. So if I go ahead and if I move that decimal 1, 2, 3 places to the right, I'm going to have to put some zeros there. You get 96,000 for your answer. All right, dividing is going to be a little bit more difficult. Here we go. So here's your procedure for dividing decimals. I'm going to go through the procedure with you, but then, of course, I'm going to show you many examples. So just a quick reminder that when you're dividing, remember the divisor is out here, and the dividend is on the inside. So they're going to use those words. If the divisor is a decimal, change it to a whole number by moving the decimal point to the right as many places as necessary, and then move the decimal in the dividend, or on the inside, to the right the same number of places. Place the decimal point in the quotient, that's the answer, directly above the decimal point in the dividend, and then you divide, and you keep dividing until the remainder repeats itself or the desired number of decimal places is achieved. Okay, that's a lot of words. So let's look at the examples, and I'll kind of explain what those words mean as we go ahead and do our examples. Okay, so let's set this up as a division problem. Now, if you look back at that procedure, number 1 talked about if the divisor was a decimal. In this case, the divisor is not a decimal, so we can go ahead and just start dividing. Your answer will have the decimal in the same place, and it will go directly above on the answer line. So it was 3.8. I moved it directly above. So now here we go. 4 does not go into 3. 4 goes into 38 9 times. 9 times 4 is 36. Subtract, I get 2. Now it hasn't gone in evenly, so we keep adding zeros until it either goes in evenly or it begins to repeat. So now I'm going to bring down the 0, and 4 divides into 20 5 times. 5 times 4 is 20, and we get a remainder of 0. So the quotient, or the answer, is 0.95. Okay, let's set up this one. So 11 into 4.23. So again, there's no decimal in the divisor. So there's no moving of decimals necessary. We're just going to go under here, and we're going to pop our decimal in our answer right above that. And we're just going to divide until it repeats or until it comes out evenly. So here we go. 11 does not divide into 4, so I'm going to put a 0. 11 divides into 42 3 times. 3 times 11 is 33. Now I subtract. If I subtract, I get 9. Bring down the 3. 11 goes into 93 8 times. 8 times 11 is 88. Subtract, I get 5. Now remember, I just want to keep bringing down zeros. There's a 0. 11 goes into 50 4 times. 4 times 11 is 44. Yikes. Subtract, we get 6. Bring down the 0, and we just keep going. 11 goes into 60 5 times. 5 times 11 is 55. Subtract, I get 5. Bring down my 0. 11 goes into 50 4 times. 4 times 11 is 44. Subtract, I get 6. Bring down a 0. 11 goes into 65. Finally, do you see what's happening? Do you see where our 4 and our 5 are repeating, and they're just going to keep repeating? So we can stop with our dividing, otherwise we'll go on forever. So here's what we're going to do. Our answer will be, I'm going to put it right up here, 0.3845, and you put the repeating bar over the 4 and the 5 because those are the two numbers that are going to continue to repeat. Okay, let's look at C. Now C is our first one. We're going to do 2.4 into 6.6. C is our first one where there's a decimal in the divisor. So here's what you do. You move that decimal to the right as far as it will go till you don't have a decimal in the divisor anymore. So just move it over to the right. I moved it over one place, which means I have to go in here and move this one also over one place. Whatever you do to the outside, you have to do to the inside. Now, I will usually rewrite my problem just because it gets kind of messy if you don't. And I'm going to throw a couple of zeros. I don't know if I'm going to need them. They're just there if I do. And again, the decimal and my answer will go up there. So one more time, if there's a decimal in the divisor, you have to move it as many times to the right till it's at the end of the number. Then move the decimal on the inside the same number of places. And then pop your decimal up for your answer. And now we're right back to where we started. So here we go. 24 divides into 66, I think twice. 2 times 24 is 48. If I subtract, I'm going to get 18. I'm going to bring down the 0. So here we go. 24 goes into 180. Ooh, yikes. Is it 8 times or 7? What's 24 times 8? 2, that's 192. So it's going to be 7 times. 7 times 24, 28 is 168. Subtract, I get 12. Bring down a 0. 24 goes into 125 times, and 5 times 24 is 120, and it came out evenly. So again, you keep going until it comes out evenly or until it repeats. So my answer for this one is 2.75. Yeah, just when you thought dividing is bad enough, now you got to divide decimals. It doesn't get any better than this. All right, let's do this one. So we have 1.2 divided into 0.8. So again, we have to move this decimal over once, which means we have to move this decimal over once, which puts my answer, my decimal and my answer right there. So again, I like to rewrite the problem. So it's 12 into, and that's just going to be 8 point, and I'm going to throw a couple of zeros on there. I have no idea how many I'm going to need, but I know now my decimal is up there. So here we go. 12 does not go into 8. 12 goes into 80 6 times. 6 times 12 is 72. Subtract, I get 8. bring down the 0. 12 goes into 80. 6 times again. 6 times 12 is 72. Subtract, you're going to get 8. Do you see what's going to happen? It's just repeating with the 6's. So my answer would be 0.6, and the 6 is repeating. All right, let's do this last one. I'm going to have to, if you don't mind, I'm going to have to do it down here. I'm kind of running out of room here. I need more room. So what are we going to do? We're going to do 6.6 divided into 100. Again, that needs to be moved over 1. The decimal's really here, which means that needs to be moved over 1, which puts a 0 there. So now what I really have is 66 goes into 1,000, and I'm going to, again, put my decimal and a couple of zeros. I don't know if I'm going to need them, but they're there if I need them. All right, 66 goes into 100 one time. 1 times 66 is 66. 100 minus 66 is 34. Bring down the 0. 66 goes into 34, I believe 5, because 5 times 66 is 330. Subtract, I get 10. Bring down the 0. 66 goes into 100 once. 1 times 66 is 66. Subtract, you get 340. Does everybody see what's going to happen? And 66 goes into there 5 times, and it'll keep doing that. So you don't want to put the repeating bar to the left of your decimal point. You never do that. You always put your repeating bar to the right. So my answer for this one will be 15.15. The 15 is repeating. All right, last 2 quick examples here. So, how do we take a fraction and change it to a decimal? In simple terms, here's what you do. You divide the bottom into the top. So that's what this says. Divide the denominator into the numerator until it goes in evenly. The remainder is 0. The remainder starts repeating yourself. Or this last one says the desired number of decimal places is achieved. What that means is if it says round to the nearest hundredth, then you've got those places that you need. All right, so here we go. 7 over 11. Let's change it into a decimal by dividing the bottom into the top. Put the decimal. I'm going to add a couple of zeros. Again, I don't know how many I need. I don't know if I need any at all. There's no decimal out here, so there's no moving to be done. I'm going to pop my decimal and my answer up there. So 11 divides into 70 6 times. 6 times 11 is 66. Subtract, you get 4. Bring down the 0. 11 goes into 40 3 times. 3 times 11 is 33. Subtract, you get 7. Bring down a 0. 11 goes into 70 6 times. I bet you can see what happens. 6 times 11 is 66. Subtract, you get 4. Bring down the 0. 11 goes into their 3. So you can see that the 63 is going to repeat. So my answer is 0.63 with the repeating bar over the 6 and the 3. Most of the time that's what's going to happen. It'll either repeat or it'll come out evenly. All right, last but not least. Now look, for this one, we have 5 and 1/6. Now you can do this a couple of ways. What I would suggest you do is change this to an improper fraction. 6 times 5 is 30, plus 1 is 31 over 6. And now do your division. So 6 divides into 31 point, however many we need. No decimal out here, so we'll pop that guy up there. And here we go. 6 goes into 31 5 times. 5 times 6 is 30. Subtract, I get 1. Bring down the 0. 6 divides into 10 once. 1 times 6 is 6. Subtract, you get 4. Bring down a 0. 6 goes into 40. 6. 6 times 6 is 36. Subtract, you get 4. Bring down the 0. Uh-oh, what's happening? 6 goes into 40. 6. 6 times 6 is 36. Subtract, you get 4. So what number is repeating? Just the 6. So your decimal would be 5.16, and this time the repeating bar only goes over the 6. And we're done. And that's it for 8.3.